Hi everybody, my name's Ruthie Barger and I'm a real alcoholic. Now you'll have to excuse me today because I just went to a conference and I'm a little high. Because I get high off AA. And I just had a wham-bam weekend. It was called the Steel City Woodstock. So I don't know, some of you might not even remember Woodstock, but I do. Powerful weekend. Tonight we are starting the book over. You're very fortunate. We're starting the book over, and we're starting, if you have a hardback edition, you will notice that the first page in the big book is blank. And it's blank for a reason. We ask you to bring a blank mind into the rooms. That any preconceived ideas that you might have on alcohol, alcoholism, alcoholic, spirituality, God, to put it on your shelf and remain teachable. Just listen to what Alcoholics Anonymous has to say. This book is not what I have to say. It's about what this book has to say. And what this book has to say has worked for over 3 million alcoholics. So just maybe, it could work for you. This book was written in 1939, and believe it or not, there has been nothing changed in this book from 1939 to now. There's been one major change, and I'm going to tell you about it when we get to it. But it's just the book that you have in front of you tonight is the same book that was put in front of the first 100 members in AA back in 1939. And back then, their recovery rate was 75%. 3 out of 4 alcoholics that came to AA got sober and stayed sober. I'm a little ashamed to tell you what our recovery rate is today. I think it's 1 in 35. So that means that me and one other person in this room is going to stay sober. All right, Al. All right. Yeah, and that's the way you got to think. It's... But I'm going to tell you what, this group does put out a much better rate than 1 in 35. I've watched the people that's come through this group in the last 35 years, and our recovery rate's pretty good. They maybe don't come back to this group, but they take the message and they carry it to other alcoholics. Because we found that what works best is me not working on my problem, but me listening to yours. And you listening to mine. And it's like when you come to AA, we say welcome home. Because you finally found, I don't know if this is is this thing going on or not?
Yeah, you're fine.
Okay. I don't know what I was talking about. So anyway, let's get back to this blank page. And I'm going to tell you, on my blank page, I wrote some stuff. And they were just notes to me because I sometimes forget. Now, I'm going to be 75 years old. I forget a lot. So I got little notes and sticky pads and writing on my book and everything because I forget. And I'm just so grateful that I remember that I forget. There's some people in this world that don't know that they forget. And I just don't want to be among that membership, but, I'm getting up there where it might happen. But anyway, I have on here that God's grace is not limited to what I think. Now, these are things to think about. My spirituality, my spiritual condition is the most important thing in my life. It does not matter what I think. It only matters what I do. And this was pointed out to me early on. I have never been put in jail for what I was thinking. I only get put in jail for the things that I'm doing. So, if we remember that you can think all you want to. You can think about, killing somebody, hanging them at noon, running them off the road. But as long as you just think about it, you'll be in good shape. Time. Things I must earn. Alcohol has been a problem ever since man crushed his first grape. I think the first recollection of alcoholism was known in Proverbs. And I'm going to read you a little verse out of Proverbs and see if you don't think this might be alcoholism. Who has woe? Who has sorrow? Who has strife? Who has complaining? Who has wounds without cause? Who has redness of eyes? Those who tarry long over wine. Those who go to try mixed wines. Do not look at wine when it is red, when it sparkles in a cup and goes down smoothly. At last it bites like a serpent, and it stings like an adder. Your eyes will see strange things, and your mind will utter perverse things. And you will be like one who lies down in the midst of the sea. You know how you put your foot out of the bed? Like one who lies on the top of the mast. They struck me, you will say, but I did not hurt. They beat me, and I did not feel it. And when shall I awake? I will seek another drink. That was written 2,000 years before Christ was born. Sounds like they might have known a little bit about alcoholism, huh? Now, we also know that probably our first known alcoholic was Noah. When he was loading up his ship with the two animals. He made sure he got them grape plants on that boat. And when he got off, he made sure them grape plants was planted real fast. Because Noah had to have his wine. And you'll find out about that if you read the book of Genesis. You don't have to be a Christian to read the Bible. But if you read the book of Genesis, you'll find out about Noah, and he was definitely our first alcoholic. So we're going to talk about the real alcoholic on page 21. We're going to talk about the dry alcoholic on page 151. We're going to talk about recovery on page 122. The recovered alcoholic on page 84.
What page did you say?
For which one?
Which one?
For which one?
The first page.
21 was the first one.
Yeah.
21.
The real alcoholic was page 21. The dry alcoholic's 151. Recovery is page 122. Recovered is 184. And okay. So we're going to go on to the title page. And we're going to see where the title of this book is Alcoholics Anonymous, the story of how many thousands of men and women who have recovered from alcoholism. Now, I'm going to tell you how the word recovered is used in the big book Alcoholics Anonymous. The word recovering is only used one time. Throughout the book, we talk about recovered, recover. Recovered was defined by Clarence Snyder at a conference in 1975 in Cleveland. And he says that the recovered alcoholic was a man or woman who had not drank and had worked the first 9 steps of this 12-step program. So when you get sober and you do not drink and you work the first 9 steps of this 12-step program, you are a recovered alcoholic. Now, let me tell you how Alcoholics Anonymous works. We work on one day at a time. Alcoholics Anonymous gives you all kinds of things. What we give you a good life, we got the promises of the 9th step. If you're painstaking about this phase of your sobriety, you're going to know a new freedom, a new happiness. You're going to comprehend the word serenity, and you're going to know peace. You just all kind of wonderful things is going to happen to you when you don't drink and go to meetings and help other alcoholics. All kinds of wonderful things happen, but it only happens for one day. And if you want what you got today, then you got to do what you did today. So that keeps you coming back. And that's how we say that this is one day at a time. And that's all that we have. I ain't saying I ain't drinking forever. I don't know. Maybe they'll come out with some stuff that is just really over the top yet. I might have to try. I don't know. But I know that I am drinking today. I like the life I got today. You know, I could go on and on and on about I got a nice house and I got a nice car and I got nice clothes and I got good people in my life and I get to go to these meetings and I get to meet new people and I got my old people that are friends of mine and I just love it. I got the best life in the world. You know, and yeah, I got things that goes on, you know, like I get to, you know, sometimes the hot water tank blows up or sometimes the furnace conks out. But you know what? I handle that. I got a good life today. And you know why? I got to thank Alcoholics Anonymous. And then I got to thank my God. Because if it wasn't for Alcoholics Anonymous, I wouldn't have God in my life. I came here very much an agnostic. I would have been an atheist, but I was a little too afraid to be one of those, just in case. So I was agnostic. And I was miserable. I was committing suicide on the installment plan. That's what we do. And I was digging my own grave. And I came here. He asked me to do 12 things. They gave me 12 steps. And those things was, I thought they were hard. But you know, they've actually become a way of life. You ask me, what step am I on today? I'll tell you, I'm on all of them. I ain't going too far from them either. Them 12 steps not only saved my life, but they gave me a life that was worth living. So anyway, now I'm not going toe to toe. If you want to be a recovering alcoholic, knock your socks off. I'm not going to fight with you. There's a lot of old timers that tell you they're recovering alcoholics, and like I said, you know, whatever floats your boat. But I will tell you that this book almost was called The Way Out. They didn't know what to call the book. There was a bunch of people that had been coming off of the Oxford group. And they was coming in before the meeting, and they were staying after the meeting. And they acquired the name of the drunk squad of the Oxford group. And in that, there was a guy that they were trying to dry out, and he was going through the DTs, and he kept on talking about, you know, anonymous alcoholics. Anonymous alcoholics. And they was looking for a name for their group. And so they running through, they was talking about the way out. They were talking about 100 men. They were talking about the chained boys. They were talking about, there was all kind of titles that they was trying to find for themselves. And then they run the way out through the Library of Congress, and they found out that there was 12 books entitled The Way Out, and this one would have been number 13. Bill and Bob both were very, very superstitious men. And they said, we ain't doing that. So this guy was going through the DTs, and he was doing Anonymous Alcoholics, Alcoholics Anonymous, Anonymous Alcoholics, and so they said, let's name our group Alcoholics Anonymous. How's that? So they started having little meetings of their own. And from that, in 1939, we put out a book. And we put out this book. It took us 2 years to write it. And Bill was pretty much the pencil pusher. But everybody that was in AA at the time, and there was 40 members, participated. And Bill would write something, and then they would all get together. And now there's only, at this time, 2 groups of Alcoholics Anonymous. One in New York, where Bill Wilson was at, and one in Akron, where Dr. Bob was at. So they would get together on occasion and have to get everything okayed. Well, it finally got up to where the 5th chapter was coming up, and they changed so much stuff in the 5th chapter that Bill said, listen, if you want me to write this book, I will. Well, we're going to stop all of this little nitpicky stuff. Either you're going to take what I write, or you're going to write it yourself. So from chapter 5 on, Bill took over he was not only the pencil pusher, but he was a genius. You know, Bill, our co-founder, you know, I even heard a lady say one time that Bill never graduated from high school. Well, let me tell you what a genius Bill Wilson was. His senior year, his girlfriend was taken to a hospital in New York suffering from some kind of terrible disease, and an operation was performed on her, and she died. And Bill just got totally overwhelmed with this, and he dropped out of school. He was in a deep, deep depression. Bill suffered from depression the biggest part of his life. But after Bill went through, he went back to school, and he got his high school diploma. And then he went through the service, and then he went through college. And he decided he was going to be a lawyer. He went all the way through law school. Bill Wilson did everything but cross the bar. And what that was is a ceremony. He did not show up for the ceremony of crossing the bar. He didn't show up. He was a very, very, very educated man. Very smart. And he was our co-founder, one of our co-founders. Our other co-founder was a doctor. And he was not only a doctor, but he was a specialist. He was a proctologist. And Dr. Bob, what a proctologist is a butt doctor. Mm-hmm. He sees his patients eyeball to asshole. And he probably had a real keen way dealing with alcoholics. Good thing he wasn't a psychiatrist, huh? So we had the two best co-founders in the world. And these two men got together and they never had an argument. Totally different personalities. Dr. Bob was real shy and withdrawn, and Bill Wilson, he was a soapboxer. I mean, he wanted to talk. He was a salesman. He could sell snowballs to Eskimos, you know. I mean, he was just that kind of a guy. And totally different personalities, but they never had an argument their entire friendship. And that was up until Dr. Bob's death. So anyway, in this book, we have 67 nevers, 14 we's and how it works before the 12 steps, 74 must, 34 with meaning, 5 purposes. There's a 6th one that's for the group. I'd like to give you Bill Wilson's sobriety date because it's not in the big book. His sobriety date is December 11th, 1934. He got sober in Charles B. Towns Hospital in Central Park West in New York City. In the contents, you will find that everything in Alcoholics Anonymous is going to be divided into 3 things: the problem, the solution, and the necessary program of action. Even the table of contents, the problem, the solution, and the necessary program of action. The 12 steps, the problem, the solution, and the necessary program of action. Everything in AA. The problem, the solution, and the necessary program of action. So here on our table of contents, you will find that John passed out a paper for you. And you're going to see that in there, the big book goals are our table of contents. We're going to see that our goal 1 is to find out what the problem is. We're going to find that in the doctor's opinion in chapter 1, Bill's story. We're going to find the problem in step 1. And we are going to find out that in 1, our problem is powerlessness. That's our problem. So many of us think that our problem is alcohol. If our problem was alcohol, the only thing that we would have to do is work step 1, and we could go on our merry way. Just don't drink. Yeah, that would be simple, wouldn't it? If our problem was alcohol. But what we're going to find out, and what I'm going to tell you, that our problem is not alcohol. Alcohol was my solution. I don't do sober for shit. I never did. I do drunk good. You could read about me in the paper. Yeah, so I'm powerless. That's my problem. So I'm going to have to do more than one step. And we're going to find out that the only step that deals with alcohol is step 1. And the rest of these 2 through 11 is going to be dealing with me and my spiritual condition, my emotions, and how I think. Because my thinking is screwed up. So I'm going to find out the solution. I'm going to find the solution in chapter 2. There is a solution. Chapter 3, more about alcoholism. In chapter 4, we agnostics. We're going to find a solution in step 2. Now, this don't take a rocket scientist. If my problem is powerlessness, my solution is power. Huh? You going along with me? Okay, our third goal is to find the necessary program of action. We're going to find that in chapter 5, chapter 6, and chapter 7. We're going to find this in steps 3 through 12. And this is how to go about finding the power. That's what we're going to have to do. And that's what this Big Book Study Group is going to do. We are going to go into the problem, the solution, and the necessary program of action. And that's called a Big Book Alcoholics Anonymous. I have the authors of a lot of the stories. If you're interested in who they were, come and see me after the meeting. Okay, the prefix. The prefix is here. This is like a textbook. A textbook starts out presuming, there's all kinds of books. But with a textbook, we start out presuming that the reader knows nothing about the subject. So we're not going to sit down and read this like a novel or a magazine or a I don't know what other kind of books there are, but yeah, this is going to be a textbook. So we're presuming, let's pretend this is a math book. All right. So we are not going to say, let's go to chapter 5 and study algebra. You don't know anything about the subject of math. So what we got to do is start with the first part of the book with the doctor's opinion and everything and find out how to add and subtract. You're going to have to read Bill's story, and there is a solution to find out how to multiply and divide. You're going to have to read the chapter to the, agnostic to find out about decimals. So when you get to chapter 5, guess what? You're going to be ready for algebra. But that's how we're going to do this. This is a textbook. So is this set up to...
Yep, it's ready.
Okay. So let's go see. What time is that? Is that quarter till?
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. All right, let's go ahead and do this. Okay, let's see what the prefix has to offer.
Thanks, Ruthie.
Alcoholics Anonymous. Copyright 1939, 1955, 1976, 2001. By Alcoholics Anonymous World Services, Incorporated. All rights reserved. This audio is a recording of the first printing, 4th edition, and was completed in December 2001 by AA World Services, Incorporated. Alcoholics Anonymous and AA are registered trademarks of AA World Services, Incorporated. Preface. This is the 4th edition of the book Alcoholics Anonymous. The first edition appeared in April 1939, and in the following 16 years, more than 300,000 copies went into circulation. The second edition, published in 1955, reached a total of more than 1,150,500 copies. The third edition, which came off press in 1976, achieved a circulation of 11,698,000. Because this book has become the basic text for our society and has helped such large numbers of alcoholic men and women to recovery, there exists strong sentiment against any radical changes being made in it. Therefore, the first portion of this volume, describing the AA recovery program, has been left untouched in the course of revisions made for the second, third, and fourth editions. The section called The Doctor's Opinion has been kept intact, just as it was originally written in 1939 by the late Dr. William D. Silkworth, our society's great medical benefactor. The second edition added the appendices, the 12 traditions, and the directions for getting in touch with AA. But the chief change was in the section of personal stories, which was expanded to reflect the fellowship's growth. Bill's story, Dr. Bob's nightmare, and one other personal history from the first edition were retained intact. 3 were edited, and one of these was retitled. New versions of 2 stories were written with new titles. 30 completely new stories were added, and the story section was divided into 3 parts, under the same headings that are used now. In the third edition, Part 1, Pioneers of AA, was left unchanged. 9 of the stories in Part 2, They Stopped in Time, were carried over from the second edition. 8 new stories were added. In Part 3, They Lost Nearly All, 8 stories were retained. 5 new ones were added. This fourth edition includes the 12 concepts for world service and revises the 3 sections of personal stories as follows. 1 new story has been added to Part 1, and 2 that originally appeared in Part 3 have been repositioned there. 6 stories have been deleted. 6 of the stories in Part 2 have been carried over. 11 new ones have been added and 11 taken out. Part 3 now includes 12 new stories. 8 were removed, in addition to the 2 that were transferred in Part 1. All changes made over the years in the Big Book, AA members' fond nickname for this volume, have had the same purpose: to represent the current membership of Alcoholics Anonymous more accurately, and thereby to reach more alcoholics.
Right here is our very first purpose. This book has 5 purposes, and I'm going to point them out to you as we come up to them. And this is our first purpose. Is that this book is, the stories in here is to represent our membership more than a closer. That's the only thing in the book that's been changed, is the stories. The fourth edition, we have stories with gays. We have stories with new things that people talk about today. And some of the things has become old hat, and we need something to replace that. So whenever the fifth edition comes out, there's going to be more things that are added to more represent our fellowship. Okay? So that is our first purpose for this book.
If you have a drinking problem, we hope that you may pause in reading one of the 42 personal stories and think, yes, that happened to me. Or more important, yes, I felt like that. Or most important, yes, I believe this program can work for me too.
I think we're going to stop there for tonight.